Welcome back. Nearly 30% of Canadians are obese, and obesity contributes to all of the everyday miseries we've been talking about. It's the reason that the baby boom generation may end up less healthy than their parents, not more. And for the 36% who are merely overweight, weight gain in middle age and beyond can feel inevitable. So, first of all, Dr. Wharton, why do so many people gain weight in middle age? What is it?
So you said it may feel that it is an inevitable thing, and to some degree, it is inevitable. We always what we tell people to do is take a picture of yourself now where you're complaining about your weight. 5 years from now, look back at that picture and you're gonna say, man, I wish I looked like that. So weight gain happens as we age because our metabolic rate goes down. There is a mitochondria. Mitochondria is a little energy package in every one of our cells. That's like a burning flame. That flame goes down every single year, and that's why we get wrinkles. That's why our hair gets gray, because that mitochondria is in every cell. And as a result of that slowing, we tend to hang on to weight more. Why? Because hanging on to energy in our fat cells is the best place to have it when no one is giving us food. Think of the older person in the village. Who's going to get the food last? So the person who's going to get the food first is the person who hunted, and then the mother and the child. The older community will get the food last in the village, so they better be efficient, really, really efficient. Babies are not efficient. They have to eat all the time. They burn, burn, burn. As we get older, we have to be efficient, and we have to hang on to food longer and use it in little, small amounts. And that's what happens as we get older. We gain weight, naturally.
And, I mean, I feel badly for a lot of people I know. I mean, I watch, they eat almost nothing, and they gain weight.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the basal metabolic rate is different for everyone, and that can be a real challenge, you know, in partnerships and families and friends comparing and you know, all adolescents really. And that's a big challenge because some people do have a higher hill to climb when working at weight loss.
I mean, I'm sure you counsel your patients on eating a healthy diet.
It's one of the major problems that we face every day because in some way it's a root of all evils in some sense with the weight because it increases chances of having hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol problem, and thus increasing the risk of having heart diseases as well as stroke. So, you know, in the pandemic wasn't helping because during the pandemic, many people stopped exercising, they stopped going to work. The amount of exercise that they do with the fact that they are actually at work rather than working from home have gone. So I've actually looked at my patients in terms of the amount of number of steps that they do or amount of activities that they do. With work from home, it just like plummeted. And in many ways...
Quarantine 15.
Yeah, during the last basically 3 years, we just keep combating of all our patients with the weight going up, the blood pressure going up, the cholesterol going up, the sugar going up. So we now actually have to convince them to work backwards now that we are reopened and we have to be able to engage back into day-to-day activities, going back to work to some extent.
And
for many.
Some of them, they don't want to.
Yeah, I'm very much against work from home. There are lots of advantages.
Me too.
In television, it will be difficult.
Depends on the day for me.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. So the challenge is, if they work from home, is great. So what I counsel my patients is, you save half an hour or 2 hours during the day of not having to go to work, but put that into actual exercise. So in between or before you start work or at the end of the day. So
there's so many
keep doing it.
Options, online options for exercise that it's not much of an excuse, to be honest, but I guess that if you know that you've paid money and you have to show up somewhere, it's different than you have to hit the power button.
For sure, and motivators are very different for different people. And I find, they teach us in medical school about motivational interviewing. So to find something that's actually meaningful to that particular person and then sort of motivate them around that. I'm sure you do that a ton.
Just wanted to add that there is a relationship between many cancers and obesity and metabolic syndrome. And so it's not only about, the arthritis and many things that we've just discussed. It has a direct impact. Kidney cancer, prostate cancer, and others have a direct relationship. And it's also interesting to see that even in countries like China, where basically no one was overweight, recently a fair percentage of the teenagers now are pre-diabetic, overweight. And so basically it boils down to changes in westernized style and food. And so probably we should get back to some basics of the Mediterranean, Asian food, which truly then is a societal promotion more than anything else.
And I'm sure a lot of that stuff prevents you from sleeping.
It's true, and with sleep apnea, the thing that's really tricky about it is that it's associated with this metabolic syndrome that we're talking about, and then people will turn around and tell the person with sleep apnea to lose weight. And it's virtually impossible for them to do so, and there's only I think it's less than 40% of sleep apneas are even associated with weight. And that's the standard sort of story that they get, this sort of biased story, which is not fair. So certainly there is a very reliable relationship between sleep and weight gain.
So basically, we've been talking about kind of garden variety overweight. That affects a lot of people. Then there's beyond that, and we've been talking about how it contributes to conditions. So does the talk about all the bad things that can happen, does that help, or?
Yeah, I would say no. So I strongly recommend not talking about all the bad things connected with elevated weight, because everybody who has elevated weight knows that and feels that they are responsible, they're at fault, they're stigmatized, they're discriminated against, and they think everything is as a result of their weight. We don't have to remind them that type 2 diabetes or hypertension, their coronary artery disease, or osteoarthritis is related to their elevated weight. We have to remind them that they're cared for, that they're loved, and that they can make a change, that it is possible. I said that it is inevitable that we go up in weight as we get older, but there's really good news here. The good news is that older patients always do better in weight management trials and in weight management interventions than younger people do. We believe it's because of what you just spoke about, which was the motivation. The motivation that people in their 60s, 70s, 80s have is to be around for their grandchildren, to be as healthy as they possibly can. They also have time, a lot more time than a 35-year-old parent does too. And then the idea of taking care of other people. So it's not a physiologic thing, it is to do with motivation and lifestyle and the capacity to make a change.
I love that. But I want to pick up on something you said about every obese or overweight person knows that it contributes to bad things. And on the idea of nutrition. So I read a lot about this stuff, and one of the things I keep reading is people don't know what healthy food is.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of knowledge of sort of good foods and bad foods, and that's ingrained in us from a young age. I think the challenge is, at least in my experience, is access in some ways. So, how much money do you have? Anyone who's grocery shopping, these days, right? In order to buy healthy food, so much more needs to be there. You have to have the time to maybe make whole foods from scratch. You have to be willing to, go out and replenish your fridge when it runs out. And you have to have the time to do that. You have to maybe have the childcare to do that. You have to have all of the other things in place. And I think there's a lot of sort of social determinants of health that are barriers to healthy eating, maybe more than the lack of knowledge.
Okay, there is more after the break. Don't go away.